Hi, I'm Paul. Welcome to Lost in Composition. I'm sitting down with Karen Hackenberg today.
Hello, I'm Karen Hackenberg in my studio.
Yep. So your path to becoming an artist is not what I would consider conventional. Can you tell us a little bit about what led you to your career, including with your stint in corporate America?
Yeah, well, let's see. I grew up in a family that wasn't particularly supportive of any activities that I might be doing, but on the other hand, there was always art in my life. So my family, my father in particular, was he was a designer and a hobbyist in terms of painting. The school I went to had a really strong art curriculum.
The high school?
The high school. And then the community in the small town I grew up in was known for, landscape painting. And, in the context of a small town, that art was in the air a lot.
Yeah.
So although I studied a lot of things that were not art related and was somewhat good at them in my high school years, grade school years, I always was strong in visual art. I was really was good and enjoyed music.
You still do?
Yes, I do. I play the fiddle now, but it was a long time coming to get back into it. So I went to the University of Connecticut first because I had diverse interests. And I took a lot of art courses and a lot of, wide range of other, required courses for university. Sciences and arts and some math and language. But I found myself really hanging out in the art department. So it became clear that even though I had been accepted to RISD originally and had not gone, I reapplied and studied art, realized a lot of the possibilities that were available just by contact with a diverse range of students and the pursuit of excellence that was required by being at that school. And then when I graduated, I left the area of my family of origin and moved to the West Coast. And pretty quickly realized I couldn't take care of myself, feed myself, put food,
With art.
Yeah, and I just decided that it was too stressful for me for quite a long time. So I sort of put it aside, except for I occasionally would go to a public drawing group or join friends and do figure drawing. So that was the one way I kept my hand in.
Okay.
And then most of the time, the one marketable skill I had after art school that I was aware of was picture framing. So I did picture framing for quite a number of years, and I slowly delved into other professions that were creative, but were not my own vision and my own painting career. So from picture framing, I got into architectural model building, and that was in a machine shop. And that was 6 years of, using mostly plexiglass and, all sorts of machine shop
Stuff.
machines.
There you go.
Table saws, milling machines, all sorts of things to make these really high-end architectural models for high-end architecture firms, mostly based in San Francisco.
Okay.
And then while I was doing that, I got connected with my late husband, Michael, and through the evolution of our creative pursuits, I became interested in textile design. He was not doing textile design, but he always had a lot of ideas for textiles, and somehow that rubbed off on me, and I decided to go to school part-time while I was working as a model builder to study textile design and printing in a school called Pacific Basin School of Textiles in Berkeley.
Okay.
And it's no longer there, but I really enjoyed the difference in materials, the color and pattern and the softness of fabric as opposed to the machine shop environment.
Yeah.
I kind of resonate with both, but it was a nice change.
Okay.
And then that kind of was sort of inching back to painting. It was like color, more tactile. Well, the model building was tactile, but it was sort of echoing a bit more the pursuit of painting because of, using dyes, not paints, but using, colored dyes. And so, and at that point I connected with the newly developed ability to do design on computers, like in mid-'80s. CAD. Okay. Yeah, computer-aided design. And it was just brand new, and I fell into an internship doing that and became one of the only people who knew how to do that at first. So,
very cool. That explains why you're computer savvy.
Yeah. And so from that internship, I barely finished it when I was contacted by Esprit de Corps, which was my first corporate job. And I married my recent training in textile design with having learned about the basics of some of this new software that was available for, expressing, developing bodies of, clothing, shapes of shirts and bodies of clothing, as well as the patterns for designs. So I married those two things to do a wonderful stint at Esprit de Corps at a really pivotal time when they were run by Doug Tompkins, which is a very long story, but he was extremely environmentally focused and imbued that whole,
when was this?
This was the late 80s. So
early on.
Yeah, and he his story is a quite interesting story. But he started North Face. He was an avid mountaineer and kayaker, really committed to the environment. And he brought in all sorts of speakers like David Brower, who started the Sierra Club, and I forget the name of the other guy who started the Monkey Wrench. Dave Foreman is a radical environmentalist who started the Monkey Wrench gang, and had them for like speaker in the park. So, having grown up in a rural area, I was already inclined towards environmental concerns, so that just helped and really reinstall that or enliven that in my life. And then, practically speaking, I decided to move on to Levi Strauss, which was also in San Francisco. And that was a much more corporate experience, but it was still design related. And I started creating my own designs on the side and selling them through a representative, through a textile rep.
Oh, very cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, and then when Michael and I moved to the Northwest, I flew back and forth and continued that pursuit. But that's when I started to want to explore my own voice. When I was about age 40, I pulled out all my college artwork from under the bed and looked at it and said, where did the last 20 years go? And if I'm going to do this, I think it's time. And I did a lot of different things to convince myself that, and to do it seriously, and then to try to figure out what it was I was trying to say. And I didn't even know exactly that's what I was doing, but I had skill, I had a lot of painting skill, I had a lot of professional skill. I wasn't quite sure what the purpose was of making a beautiful landscape except to make a beautiful landscape, and that whole concept of for art's sake.
So landscape painting was one of your first?
Yeah, one of was my first, and partly why I ended up doing that when I had that period in my life, that epiphany, like it's time to do this, either explore whether this is viable and, who I am as an artist, that's where I left off when I graduated from college. And to backtrack a little, when I was in college, I did this Artists for Environment program. So it was a semester away from RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, to work in the Western New Jersey in the Delaware Water Gap National Park.
Okay.
So I was there in an old farmhouse with 6 other people, students from the Union of Independent Art Colleges in the US, who would do exchanges with this Artists for Environment program. And so that was towards the end of my college years, and that's kind of where I left off, 20 years before, and doing plein air landscape painting. So I was painting outside. And, the whole program was to show people scenes of the environment, especially urban people who maybe aren't in nature, to get the sense of what it is they're losing and what's the beauty that's there to protect. And I'm on board with that whole concept. I think it's a fabulous concept, but it wasn't enough for me, because I felt like it was, for me personally, it was a little too easy for people to just really enjoy the nice landscape but not really get my passion, or the passion that they might need to develop to be concerned about the environment. So that's when I made the shift to including our despoilment in my beautiful scenes of the natural environment.
Yeah. So you just decided that you'd throw some trash in there, but this is not the nice scenic stuff that
this
you
is
do.
a newer version that incorporated my pattern, love of pattern from textile.
Yeah.
But all the things in the paintings were found on the beach. So that's a crucial part of the whole scenario, is that...
Were they all found? Now, you live on the waterfront. We've got a beautiful view that our viewers can't see.
Right.
Is most of it found here? Is all of it found here? Where do you get it from?
Most of it is found here, but I have some friends and acquaintances who actually collect things for me. And
Guilty.
you're one of them. And I don't take things from just anyone. They have to be, creditable as actually finding them on the beach.
Gotcha.
So, so the whole point is to monumentalize the things that we easily walk by on the beach and think and go tisk tisk, well, those darn litterers or whatever. But to monumentalize the objects by taking really close photographs and working from the photographs, so that you can't just look at the pretty landscape. You have to confront the trash that's in the environment. And it was a bold step when I did that, because I wasn't sure. It was an intuitive step and a bold step for me, because I wasn't actually sure what I was up to until I started making the pieces. And they all spoke to each other. And they also made me laugh.
Some of them are really fun and just very cute on top of being very real.
Right, and then you're right, and I'm glad you see that. I feel that I found my voice through that by trusting my intuition and just deciding to go for making paintings of the objects I found on the beach. Because the resulting paintings kind of reflect my dark humor. It's sort of, I'm very passionate about the destruction of habitat for animals and the despoilment of the planet. But I also have a kind of a joy, actually, of being on the planet as a human being, and a kind of a humorous compassion for the whole of it, for all of life on the planet, the foibles of human beings. I think of human beings, so many of us, and all of us in some ways, are rather oblivious to our impact on the planet.
Oh, very much so.
And rather than point fingers, I feel compassion. And I like to use beauty and humor to pretty much witness what we're doing.
That makes perfect sense. So I've seen your work described as post-apocalyptic environmental art, as hyperrealism. How do you describe it?
I think that all of that applies. I mean, I think that's true. I don't think it actually fits in any clear category right now, and I think as in art history terms, sometimes categories don't develop until many years later when we're looking back on trends in art to categorize it, but
very true.
I fit into a lot of different things. I mean, one of my influences, turns out, which has really surprised me, was Andy Warhol. Early on, I was very attracted to Claes Oldenburg and his monumentalizing of everyday objects into huge sculptures. So you can see the parallel. I make, my items look big in the landscape. But I didn't realize until I made a series of these works that it was really related to pop art. And yes. I was kind of shocked because when I was in high school, my teacher was really anti-pop art. And I have to say at the time, I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. But when I started doing this work, I realized how much I'd absorbed that over the years as just part of my vocabulary. Yeah. And as I said, I was kind of startled. It was like, oh my God, I'm making pop art. How did that happen?
I love pop art, and it's one of those things where I just kind of want to go, I love pop art.
Yeah, me too.
But I do, and Andy Warhol is one of my favorite artists, and he really basically stuck a finger in the eye of art. Yeah. And I have a tendency to think that's what you're doing as well.
I think in some ways, I'm sticking a finger in everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
In my own eye.
Yeah,
everybody is like, we're all in this together.
Yeah, true.
It's like I kind of sort of have an irreverence, I think, and an impudence sometimes. So I guess that as a result, I like my paintings to sort of draw people in and surprise them. So they're a little, oh, what have we here,
Yeah.
So,
So surprises, you said that. What's the biggest surprise that you've ever found on the beach or had given to you by somebody that found it on the beach?
I don't know if I could actually define that, because everything I find man-made on the beach in many ways is surprising, because it's not supposed to be there.
That's true.
And I guess what I am drawn to is what doesn't fit in life. I notice in my own life, like on many levels in my life and in my vision and in my art, I kind of see what's out of place and bring it to attention for some bigger meaning or just for the heck of it, but I think that, I don't know if it's exactly surprising, but the things that jazz me the most are the things that have such a blatant, ironic message when I first find it. It's like this aha, like, oh my God, this is too much.
Like a gun or a plastic gun or?
Sometimes a gun, but more like the painting I'm hoping to work on soon is one of those shiny plastic balloons that people...
Yeah, the Mylar balloons.
The Mylar balloons, right. And balloons in general are a major hazard to wildlife.
Yeah.
And not only the balloons themselves, but the ribbon attached to it is strangulating. So I found a balloon on the beach, fairly intact but really weathered, that says Happy Mother's Day. And I was thinking of Earth Day, and like, oh, please, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that isn't, it's crazy in its own way, but it's also like, this is the perfect, dark, humorous message. Then I have to paint it.
I get it.
So,
that's really cool. So is that kind of the process of how you choose the items?
that's part of the process. You know, sometimes it just is like that. It's like, this message is just too perfect.
Okay.
And other times I gather things like lots of toys, for instance, the toy gun, toy figurines, and there's something about them, like if I move them around on a tabletop, they kind of create narratives, and they're really subliminal narratives. I don't know what the narrative is, but then, you know, when I find these things, I bring them to my studio to collect them, but then in order to make my work, I bring them back to the beach, usually mostly where they're found, and set them up in the debris. And I'll take a lot of photos, and there will be something about their juxtaposition with each other, their relationship to each other on the beach, that I get this sort of frisson of like, there's something going on here. And I'm not always sure what it is, but it usually speaks to social commentary or environmental commentary, cultural things, the ironies. And if I worry too much about what the actual message is, it sometimes gets too obvious for me.
Yeah.
So I just try to go with my gut and then make the painting, and it starts telling me what it's about. And then it also enables the viewer to see what they think it's about. I can tell them what I finally decided it's about, and then I'll hear from viewers what they see it's about, and I see that it's really also about that, and I hadn't realized it.
Gotcha.
So it's all this
Thank you.
internalized.
That just personalized holy water for me in a way that I can't express. So
Yeah. It's got I hope that most of my paintings have some sort of subliminal aspect like that.
Yeah. Now I'm going to have to post a picture of holy water on the blog. So, yeah. Let me tell you, my parents were surprised when they saw a 6-foot tall cross in our home.
Made out of water bottles.
Yeah, made out of water bottles.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised because originally I wasn't thinking of that when I made that shape. I was thinking of it more of some kind of, pagan totem or any kind of totem. And when I saw that it was a cross, I was a little bit taken aback, but also totally drawn to paint it.
Oh, very cool.
Because I'm not religious. Yeah. But I saw how, here I am going to explain what I see in the painting, and a lot of people will see different things, but, and I called it holy water because we can't seem to get rid of plastic, packaged water.
Which is ridiculous.
And it's like holier than thou, the people, talk about the obliviousness of people. Some people have woken up and don't buy bottled water, but so many people just know it's a problem and just buy cases of it anyway.
And I'm guilty of it when we travel.
So is everybody. That's the thing. We're all in this together. We're not perfect.
And it's just minding your manners and taking that plastic and recycling it, or
I think the best thing is not to buy it, but we're all caught at times.
Yeah, we are.
And I don't think it's productive to beat ourselves up. I think we need to do what we can do, the best that we can do it, and make a commitment to that. And so the holy water, we're attached to the water bottles, but also our water is holy.
Yes.
And so there's the bay behind it that's holy.
Yeah.
So it's, a lot of subliminal levels of meaning. But what comes first is my kind of, I don't know why it is that I have to paint this, and then I start seeing the layers. It's something just really strikes me.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I mean, I guess I'm conscious of it on some level, but it's not the top of my conscious.
So you stage the items down here on the beach,
Yeah.
where you'll build a
I stage them
model.
independently, or I often glue the items together and drag them down to the beach and prop them up, and sometimes they fall over and break apart and I have to do it again because I don't glue them together really solidly.
Yeah.
And photograph them down there so they have, the same light and the same, the background of the beach. I could just take a photograph of the stuff in my studio and plop it in, but it wouldn't have the same light. And I use most photos for reference, so I really, part of what I enjoy painting, aside from the message, is the quality of light and dark and the environment of the Northwest.
Yeah.
The kind of light we have, the colors we have, natural colors versus consumer colors.
Yeah. I've done a lot of traveling, and the Pacific Northwest is one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Yeah.
Period.
It is, yeah.
So after you take the pictures of them, do you mind sharing your process from that point forward?
No. I take the photos, and I usually have way more than one would think I'd need. Sometimes I have 50 of one sort of scene, taking the objects that are separate or the glued together object and turning it this way, turning it that way on the beach to get the right light or the right backdrop. So I take all those photos and put them on my computer, of course, and go through them and see the ones that seem to work the best compositionally. Composition and light, the ones that have enough actual information in the photo for me to remember what the scene looked like, because the photos can distort things sometimes and not capture what it was that was grabbing me about the scene. And then I take those maybe handful of photos and try to sort out which one really works. Then I start cropping the photo on the computer. And occasionally I'll take, occasionally I'll take the object or objects that I've photographed and crop one out of one photo and pop it into another of my photos because the angle's better or a photo actually needs another element. So I guess what I'm saying is I really work on the composition a lot on the computer to get it right before I start painting.
That makes sense.
And I abandoned my computer skills for years because I was really tired of the technology and being glued to a computer.
Yeah.
But I realized I had a lot of skills that would help me do my paintings that I wasn't using. So I got back to working on the computer to use the skills I developed to get me to the composition faster than just sketching it or rearranging it on the canvas as I painted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. So is there a piece in particular that you struggled with creating, and after it was created, you were just completely blown away or very satisfied?
I think most of my paintings I struggle a bit with at the end especially because I think most artists feel this way. I don't think our actual paintings ever match this idea we have in our head. It's like our brains can come up with incredible stuff, but actually interpreting this movable thing that's in our brains into a concrete image made out of actual stuff like paint and, it's always a huge transition. And so what I find the hardest part is getting the painting 3/4 of the way to, 7/8 of the way done and realizing the painting is what it is. It's not going to be this fantasy I had in my head.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to separate the two. And the fantasy moves around a lot too. So the The hard part, and I've started to recognize it now, so now I don't get quite as bent out of shape by that part. The hard part is letting go of what the painting could be and acknowledging what it is.
Okay.
And then taking the finishing processes to make it more of what it is, instead of wishing it was another painting. And then I go, well, I can do another painting and maybe that will have it. And this is the painting I made now. So in terms of a particular painting,
I think you fundamentally answered the question.
I think Fossil Feud, the one that you own, was hard for me because they had a lot of detail that it was really like all the detail on the dinosaur.
That detail is unbelievable.
Was like it took a long time.
Sure, it did.
And
I'm gonna have to post that one too.
All the barnacles and stuff. It was sort of And I thought I'd kind of overdone it, and now when I look at it, in fact, I just saw it last weekend in Victoria, I realized, wow, I really like this painting. So, and I want to do some more along those lines. So.
Okay, cool. So over the years, you've gained a lot of publicity through magazines, and a local TV station even came out and interviewed you here. What was the most meaningful mention that you've had recently or throughout your career?
There have been lots of mentions that I've found thrilling, but I have to say the Courtauld Institute in London, their student publication, the Courtauld Institute is it's an art school, I think, focused on museum, I might have this wrong, but museum curation, gallery curation, and arts writing. Courtauld also has their own art collection. When I went to London with my late husband, Michael, we happened to take a tour in the Tate, I think it was the Tate Britain, with a young woman who happened to be writing for that newspaper. And we started chatting, and she wanted to do an interview with both of us for their publication.
Very cool.
And that interview was, was international, and she was a delight to work with. And I found that a really serendipitous, kind of thrilling event.
Nice.
And there are others. The Stanford University, the Mahab blog, environmental blog. That was a really, I got to write essays on my own for that blog, and I found that affiliation to be really rewarding.
Very cool.
And that was put together by the curator of the Environmental Impact Show that's touring, David Wagner. So
So you've mentioned going up to Victoria. Your work is in traveling exhibitions going around North America. This is the second traveling exhibition.
Second iteration of the show.
Second
with
iteration.
Different artwork, some of the same artists, and different artworks.
And you have artwork in several different museums.
Yeah.
How does that feel? How does that success feel?
That feels wonderful. It feels like a dream come true, actually, because I started, really being serious about my art career, what might be considered a little late in life, and I feel like that jump I made, intuitive jump I made in 2009, before very many people were that aware of the ocean pollution issue. That intuition to start in on that vein really resonated. And I really feel good that it resonated enough for museum collections to become interested, and that my message could be seen, my painting quality and my message could be seen by others.
Very cool.
And as one gets older, one hopes that one's work can be protected and in a good institution for I don't know, as long as it works for the institution, I imagine.
We're So for aspiring artists, do you have any tips or tricks to get it into a museum, or is there anything that you did?
I don't have any direct tips or tricks. I just think it's important to keep putting, well, first of all, find your voice and your authentic voice, not what you think you should be doing, but what just really makes you passionate, and pursue that, because that's the only, well, I think as a person it's the only thing worth doing if you want to be an individual artist. I mean, working for hire and design is also a worthy activity, and I've done a lot of it. But I think for for collectors, they want something that's unique, and the only thing that's really unique is you.
Yeah.
So, just keep at that, and also keep putting it out there wherever you can. And newsletters that reach significant people who might be interested. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't do anything, but there's the occasional time when somebody realizes it resonates with a show they're putting together. So, a lot of hard work.
So the environment, obviously it's near and dear to you. What do you see that individuals could do or stop doing to have a significant impact?
Everybody's different. I use my skill as an artist to witness the situation. Some people are very comfortable doing overt political art. That might include performances or interventions, public interventions or performances. I think we all owe it to ourselves and to the planet to use our best skills to be part of the discussion. And I don't have any answers. There are...
That.
Yeah, pardon?
I like that answer.
Yeah, I don't have answers. I'm not necessarily depressed about it, because the way I address it makes me happy. And I really think that bumming yourself out and spiraling into negativity is the worst thing you can do. You basically have to just believe that being part of the discussion can somehow contribute. And as David Brower's, one of his quotes is, you have to have fun saving the world, otherwise you're just going to depress yourself. So,
I like that.
So, and
I like that a lot.
he was, informative environmentalist. And I thought, okay, I'm on the right track. Even David Brower says this, So.
I'm going to have to write that quote down and put it up on the wall, because it's applicable to so many things.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've created a couple books. They're very beautiful books. They're actually works of art. Why did you decide to create these books?
Well, the first book, I had started this body of work, and I had a lot of pieces. Then there were small pieces, gouache pieces. They were 5 by 7, and I realized there's something about their tactile quality that felt like a book, like an artist book. And I didn't really want to get into the whole process of learning how to bookbind, but I wanted a really nice book. So and the reason I wanted that book is just to backtrack a little, is that it felt like they were intimate pieces and bear looking at closely. And it felt like a book would be like a little treasure that, a nice tactile book with nice paper and nice cover. So that's when I applied for an Artist Trust grant and got some help to pay for a book that was made by Paper Hammond Marquand Editions, located in Tieton, Washington. Worked with Ed Marquand and his staff to come up with the first book, which was a very limited edition handmade book.
I've still got my eyes on it. There's still a couple available.
Yeah, yeah. I still have a few. And then the second one was sort of a lark. I wanted to be making more paintings, but I met someone who had very good design skills and lived in Amsterdam with some really fine connections to printing. Part of my ancestry is Dutch, and I really am enamored with Dutch design. So I just decided that I might as well go for it with this, making a book of mine. Because I had, at this point, I guess that came out in 2018. It was late 2018. I had developed a whole lot of pieces in this body of work. And I think I was really drawn with the possible high quality of this opportunity. So I jumped into it with 2 feet. And it was a lot of hard work, but it came up with a really beautiful book. So
it is.
And yeah, with full color spreads and
the way the pages open and lay flat.
Yeah, it's a lay flat book, but with a very particular binding. It hadn't quite been used before. So that whole aspect of the technical three-dimensional aspect, it was really exciting to me, partly because I have this three-dimensional sense, and my father was a package designer, the structural designer, so I have those genes of being kind of geeking out on how the thing is made and put together.
Okay, I'm going to post a video of the book opening up.
Okay.
So I will do that too.
Okay, great.
And I'll put links. The links to the books are down below.
Oh, good, wonderful.
Yeah. So, what artists have inspired you?
Well, I have to say they're all over the board. When I was younger, there's one kind of set of artists, and when I got older, there's other ones. And I have to say, sometimes I just come across someone I'd never heard of, and I'm just jazzed. So it changes. But I'd say, I was just writing this all down, but I've forgotten who everybody is yet already. So it's really diverse. So like Lois Dodd is a woman painter who's still alive, who's in New York area. She does really beautiful paintings of just simple structures and vegetation, like looking out of windows. She was somewhat affiliated with the Delaware Water Gap Artists for Environment program that I was talking about earlier. Well, there's Andy Warhol, there's Oldenburg, as I realized later. Morandi, I love Morandi, this somewhat hermit-like painter, Italian painter. When I was landscape painting and working outside, plein air, you have to work really fast. So those earlier paintings were much more gestural.
Okay.
The Macchiaioli painters of Italy, they were one of the first Italian painters to sort of break away from religious paintings and work in a more pastoral way with scenes of nature. Who else is in there? Well, I like David Hockney. In my drawings, I'm still quite loose. So any artists that are really strong in drawing with like light and dark, I'm very drawn to, so to speak.
Well,
yeah.
So do you have any call-outs for living artists, local or not?
I like Chester Arnold, who's in Sonoma. He's in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. Scott Green, who's in the Albuquerque area. Michael Brophy from Portland. All three of those people are environmentally oriented artists. Who else? Oh, I like Carrie James Marshall, a Black African-American artist who's been quite successful and well-known internationally. And Kahind Wiley, another African-American artist. I know there's a whole bunch more, but I can't think of who they are offhand.
Gotcha. Do you have any tips for aspiring artists?
I basically think that's sort of a similar answer to approaching museums. Find your authentic voice. And I think one of the only ways to do that is to just keep making work.
Yeah.
And then it sort of evolves. And try not to get too, I think, it's a double-edged sword. Try not to get too involved in the trends of what, one thing I've noticed over the years is there'll be a style that becomes popular, not just in a region, but all over the place. I'll see this certain kind of mark making that everybody decided is cool and everybody wants a version of. So Philadelphia will have a version of an artist that does really similar work to Seattle, that does really similar work to New York.
Okay.
And it depends on what your definition of success is. I guess that could get you collected in a certain way, but it, for me, would be a little less rewarding.
Yeah, not as satisfying.
Yeah, right.
That makes perfect sense.
Right.
Do you have any call-outs for institutions or collectors or potential collectors?
Of my work? Or,
of your work, of anyone.
Yeah. Well, Tacoma Art Museum has been a very supportive institution for my work. They own several of my pieces now and have been very supportive in selling my book and some of my artwork in their gift shop, and will be giving me a solo show within the next couple of years. So I am a real fan of the place. The people are great to work with. David Wagner has been really supportive and has put on a really wonderful show of artists for environmental impact now in Victoria at the Bateman Foundation down by the waterfront, the Inner Harbor of Victoria. Bainbridge Island Museum of Art has been very good to me. They own some of my work, and I had a solo show there.
It's one of my favorite museums.
Yeah.
And for those in Seattle, just walk onto the ferry, walk up to the museum,
so
spend
easy.
the day in the town.
Yeah.
It's a great day trip.
Yeah. So, did you have anything else in mind in terms of?
No.
Patricia Rosar, my gallerist,
Patricia.
My goodness,
she'll be linked to down below.
One of my biggest champions. Thank you, Patricia. And I can't say enough good things about Patricia as a representative of my work.
And as a collector, she's awesome too.
Yeah.
She's always treated me very good.
Yeah, very professional and very warm. So.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Well, you're totally welcome. I hope I answered your questions well and was enlightening about my process.
Nice.
Yeah. I always love hanging out with you. So.
Oh, likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please do follow and have a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.